UFC Fight Night Barboza versus Chikadze, aka UFC Vegas 35, aka our Ultimate Fighter finale, of course, as we have some Ultimate Fighter finale fights on this card as well. Welcome to another UFC prediction and analysis video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, we're giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from the betting perspective, letting you know which fights are worth the value, which fights you want to stay away from, which underdog has the best shot at winning. And if you stick around to the end of the video, you may even get a little bit of parlay action as well. We have 12 fights on this UFC Vegas card. Like I mentioned, Barboza versus Chikadze is the main event, but also this is the Ultimate Fighter finale. We have 3 Ultimate Fighter fights on this card as well. 12 total fights, 6 fights on the prelims, 6 fights on the main card. As usual, we are going to start with our prelims. Before we get into the first fight, of course, subscribe to the channel, press like on the video, press the thumbs up, of course, hit that notification bell, and definitely participate in the comments. We definitely appreciate it. Like I said, we are going to get started with our prelims, and we are going to get started with fight number 1. Opening up this card, we have Martinez taking on Guido Cannetti. Taking a look at Martinez first, it is his UFC debut. He's on a 2-fight win streak back in Fury FC. Lost to Draco Rodriguez on Dana White Contender Series. That was back in September 2020. So he does have a taste of UFC, but this is going to be his official debut. He does seem to have decent movement on the feet, pretty quick on the feet as well. Southpaw in his stance. Seems to be a pretty dynamic striker with what he throws, from what I've seen. Definitely have to respect his pop. All 8 of his wins are via KO TKO. I didn't really identify any one specific strength in his game, though, so I wouldn't quite say he's a specialist anywhere, but like I said, pretty solid dynamic striker from what I've seen from him. Guido Cannetti, on the other hand, 2-fight losing streak. His last fight was actually about a year and a half ago, back in March 2020. He did lose to 2 quality opponents, though. 41 years old at this point. That was the first thing that I noticed about him. 8 wins, 6 losses. And it's kind of strange because he is a solid fighter, but not really a fighter that you can be too confident in from a betting perspective. He is introduced in the ring as a striker, good movement, gives you a style where he does fight from the outside, pretty light on his feet, good kicks, definitely willing to engage if he is backed up too much against the cage. And he can definitely surprise you with his speed or his pop. You do have to be sharp when you're fighting him. He is a quality opponent. He is a game opponent at the very least. Ultimately, this may just be a battle of age. 41 years old on the side of Guido Cannetti, 25 years old on the side of Martinez. That's definitely the highlight here. Cannetti isn't really able to change his game plan. He is a little bit chinny at this age and just a little bit chinny in general. And like I said, with Martinez, 8 wins, all 8 via KO TKO, that could be an issue here. Ultimately, I think Martinez could get the finish. I think as long as he stays sharp, he should get the win. And again, that finish very much is possible. I don't see much that Guido Cannetti can provide me to say he's going to win this for sure. So I'm going to side with Martinez. He's going to be my pick to open up this card.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick, man. I'm going Mana Martinez. I'll explain. At 41 years old, Cannetti, there's not many successful 41-year-old bantamweights. That division, you usually have to be a lot quicker. You got to be a bit more agile than the other divisions. It's one of the lower weight classes. And what I like from Mana Martinez, like you said, he finishes fights. Like, he looks for the finish. Good fighter, pretty good everywhere, good striking. Gonna have the striking advantage. Cannetti definitely is a gritty fighter. If you can get him, if you can hold him against the cage, he can get a lot of success. But that's not gonna happen for 3 rounds. I think it's a comfortable pick here. Going with Mana Martinez here. Mana Martinez is my pick.
Sounds good. So let's move on to fight number 2. Fight number 2, we have Jamall Emmers taking on Pat Sabatini. We see Jamall Emmers as the -150 favorite, Pat Sabatini as a +125 underdog. For Jamall Emmers, he beat Vince Cachero. That was back in August of last year, so about a year since his last fight. We know him to have very explosive stand-up, very dynamic in the stand-up, but also very composed. So he's not wild in any way, shape, or form. Pretty good movement, switch kicks, jumping knees, calf kicks, head kicks, very dynamic in his striking approach, front kicks, clinch, good knees to the body, that tie clinch as well. Pretty good jab, good long strikes in general. Of course, the question is always going to be, what can Emmers do on the ground? He is a BJJ brown belt on paper. And he does have some wrestling, but pretty much a stand-up artist on the side of Jamall Emmers. For Pat Sabatini, he's on a 3-fight win streak. He beat Tristan Connolly. That was back in April. He's a ground game specialist, so definitely going to be a clash of styles in this fight here. Good top control, Division I wrestler. Also a BJJ black belt, so legitimately credentialed for a complete ground game, knows what he's doing down there. We see his record there, 14 wins, 3 losses. 10 of those wins have come by submission. And in terms of his stand-up, it's serviceable. He'll move around the ring. He'll fight from the outside. He'll throw multiple strikes at a time. Even has some pop. We saw him drop Tristan Connolly in round 1. Was a pretty big featherweight in that fight. Ultimately, again, like I said, clash of styles, wrestler versus striker. I'm actually going to choose the wrestler on this one. I feel like he has maybe a better path to win rounds. I feel like he's more likely to win 2 rounds as opposed to Jamall Emmers winning 2 rounds. For Emmers, he found himself in clinch situations in his last fight again versus Vince Cachero. And although he won that fight, I can see those types of situations happening in the Sabatini fight. And I think Sabatini is going to capitalize on it a lot more than what Cachero was able to do. Of course, what's dangerous here is that, like I said, Jamall Emmers, he has a wrestling background as well. So, I'm definitely not going to be naive to that. It's just that in MMA and maybe in the UFC specifically, I don't really see Emmers using it. It's not to say he doesn't have it, but he does rely on his striking. Sabatini coming in again with the D1 wrestling. I just think Sabatini is going to be able to use that wrestling to his advantage. Maybe, squeeze out a split decision here. Definitely a tough fight, but I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going with Pat Sabatini at plus 125. He's going to be my pick, and I think the wrestling is going to make the difference.
Yeah, that's fair. Sabatini had a good showing against Vince. I'm sorry, not against Vince. I'm sorry. He had a good showing against Tristan Connolly. But I'm not too high on Tristan Connolly. He has a win versus Jesse Stern. Another fighter I'm not too high on. He doesn't have many wins on his record that I'm really impressed with. He has a loss to Jose Mariscal, James Gonzalez. In my opinion here, I know he's going to try to get this grappling. He's going to try to utilize his grappling here. He's good. He's a good grappler. But I just believe that Emmers is the more complete fighter. And Emmers is only 32 years old. I think he's going to have I think he has the potential to do well in the UFC. If you really look at his skill set, he can do everything. He can strike, he can wrestle. He has fights on his record. He has a win versus Corey Sandhagen. I just think this is a fight where Jamall Emmers, even though Sabatini has the grappling, I'm not confident he can get this to the mat consistently throughout the fight. And I think on the feet, I think the speed's going to be a factor. So I'm going Jamall Emmers. I think he's a bit more well-rounded, and in my opinion, as far as the wrestling goes, we're going to find out on Fight Night. But as far as striking goes, I believe it's clear-cut Jamall Emmers as the better striker. So Jamall Emmers is my pick.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. I think that last statement summed it up perfectly. Fight Night, we're going to have to see who truly has the better wrestling, but without a doubt, Jamall Emmers has the better striking. So I'm not mad at that. I can definitely see why he's the favorite. I can see why you'd go with him. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens ultimately in that fight. Let's move on to fight number 3. JJ Aldrich taking on Vanessa Demopoulos. I'll break this one down as well. JJ Aldrich, she beat Courtney Casey via split decision. That was back in March. She's a southpaw on the feet, pretty decent pace. She likes to come forward. Not afraid to engage, I should say. Eat a shot to give a shot. She's definitely going to throw multiple punches at a time. has that toughness factor to her, right? A pretty decent left straight down the middle as well. Primarily boxing. I don't necessarily want to call her a boxer, but primarily boxing in that we see pretty much hands coming out of her, not too many kicks. Definitely use some clinch work against the cage. She can land that takedown as well. And if she does get on top of you, she is going to implement that sort of ground and pound type of approach. For Vanessa Demopoulos, her last fight was in March as well. That was an LFA. She won that fight. Pretty quality matches on her resume. She's a former LFA champion, introduced as a jiu-jitsu and a Muay Thai style fighter. Again, I always like to pay attention to that. A pretty aggressive, high-paced striker. She likes to come forward. She likes to engage. Decent low kicks. What I noticed about her on the feet, she does leave herself open. Not the best striking defense, but her strength is in her jiu-jitsu. Very high-level grappler. I wouldn't say I've seen a strong takedown game from her or a strong wrestling game from her, but definitely a high-level grappling game coming from her as well. Important to note that she's fought in 5-round fights before, so her cardio definitely holds up decently. If you watch her fight in LFA versus Sam Hughes, that was a pretty high-paced 5-round fight, and her cardio held up, right? I mean, she was even able to land that high-level submission to end it in round 4. So we know that she's going to be reliable from that perspective. But I think ultimately the key thing in this fight, and we notice here JJ Aldrich is such a huge favorite. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that she's going to have a huge size advantage here. And not only what we see on paper, we see 3 inches in height, we see 8.5 inches in reach as well. But at the same time, this fight is flyweight. This fight is a 125-pound fight. Vanessa Demopoulos is a 115-pound fighter. You go back and watch her last fights. She fights at 115 pounds. She's not a 125 or so. Very interesting to see her take this one. Of course, wants to be introduced into the UFC, so I can see her kind of just taking whatever comes to her. Funny enough, even though she's a huge underdog, I feel Vanessa Demopoulos is probably the better fighter. And to some degree, I want to go with the underdog. Maybe I'll see how it looks live. But at the same time, I mean, you kind of just have to go with JJ Aldrich on this one. I think she's too big, too strong. She has that toughness factor to her. I think she's going to outgrind Vanessa Demopoulos here. And I think that size, especially being a true flyweight, whereas Demopoulos is more of a 115er, I think that's ultimately going to be the difference in this one. For the channel, I'm going with JJ Aldrich. For the bettors, I'm going to say completely stay away from this one, dog or pass. But again, for the channel, I'm going with JJ Aldrich.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty confident JJ Aldrich gets this done. If you look at who's Vanessa has fought, she's fought absolutely nobody. Absolutely nobody. And when she fought 2 fighters, that one was 4-0, Lupita Gonides, and a fighter that was 4-1. She lost both fights. She beat Cynthia Arcio. And she's not really she's not good at all. She's very one-dimensional. She wants to get this to the match. She's not going to really do much. She's not going to do anything at all on the feet. And JJ Aldrich arguably has the best left hand in women MMA. Arguably. She has a dangerous left hand straight. And it's going to be there all day here. Again, the size, like you mentioned, is a big factor. I think the only way you can go is JJ. She's fought Courtney Casey, Lauren Mueller. She's beat Lauren Mueller, and that's a fighter that has, in my opinion, a stronger wrestling game than Vanessa. As well as, if we go down her list, she's also fought Pollyanna Viana, Danielle Taylor, Chami Jian. So she's going to win the striking match clearly in this fight. And she's dealt with a better wrestler. So I'm going to go JJ Aldrich. And it should be a clear-cut win here. This should be unanimous. This should be a unanimous decision here for JJ Aldrich. But I would just put this on a couple parlays because I'm pretty confident she gets it done.
Yeah, JJ Aldrich also has a strength of schedule to your point on her side. Just taking a look at some of the records of the fighters that she has beaten or fought, I should say. definitely has that strength of schedule to her advantage. So not mad at the little bit of a confidence boost in JJ Aldrich. Again, I think she does get the job done here. Ultimately, like I said, that size, I think probably is the biggest factor in feeling really good about her. Let's move on to the next fight. In that case, we have Dustin Jacoby taking on Darren Stewart. This is the fourth fight of our prelims. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, we got a banger right here. This is gonna be a scrap here with Dustin Jacoby. We know that he's probably one of the better strikers in the UFC. He was in glory. He did well. He held his own. He's gonna be fighting Darren Stewart, who is on a 2-fight losing streak. So Darren Stewart wants to get back in the win column here. In my opinion, this fight, he's gonna have the wrestling advantage, but he's not a wrestling guy as per his trade. He's not a wrestling guy, so he's not gonna be able to win this fight with just wrestling. He's gonna have to do a lot more. But he is good at holding people against the cage, getting cheap points, and winning decisions or making fights look pretty close. Because when it comes to this fight versus Dustin Jacoby, Jacoby's gonna have a far better striking advantage. And the longer they're on their feet, Jacoby's gonna keep piecing up that leg. It's gonna make it hard for Darren Stewart to kind of move around. And eventually Jacoby's gonna win this fight, either by decision, but there's a good chance Jacoby gets a knockout here, in my opinion. But obviously Darren Stewart is a live underdog. He's a veteran in this game. He's fought the who's who in the middleweight division. But as far as I'm concerned here, if he doesn't get this to the ground for 3 rounds, he's not going to win the fight. So he can win the fight the first round with the wrestling. Second, third round, I can see Dustin Jacoby here coming back. And as you know, Dustin Jacoby's on he hasn't lost a fight in a while. Like his last loss in MMA, but he went to kickboxing. Let's say his last loss in kickboxing was in 2016. That's his last loss, period. And I thought he had won the Ion Cutelaba fight. So he's on quite a win streak here. I'm gonna go with Dustin Jacoby here, and I wouldn't be shocked if he gets the finish.
Yeah, I'll keep it super short on my end. I'm definitely going with Dustin Jacoby. He is going to be one of my more confident picks on this card. I just don't think Darren Stewart has it at this point. Winless in his last couple of fights. Yes, he has, crisp boxing. Yes, he has the clinch ability, the physical strength, the wrestling ability, but completely unreliable on the cardio side of things. Has not looked impressive recently whatsoever. And to your point, I mean, Dustin Jacoby, his last loss in general, 2016. His last MMA loss was in 2015. And like you said, he, in my opinion, beat Ion Cutelaba as well. So I look for Dustin Jacoby to get the job done here. I think this fight's going to stay on the feet for one. And I think Dustin Jacoby's going to sort of just pick him apart. I really like the odds here at -175. I'm definitely interested in making a bet on this one. So let's move on to fight number 5. In that case, we have Sam Alvey taking on Wellington Turman. Why don't you tell me how you feel about this one as well?
All right, so with Wellington Turman, Brazilian fighter, man, on a 2-fight losing streak here. It's a tough fight because when you look at Wellington Turman, he doesn't have the best IQ. He was able to get finished by Andrew Sanchez on the feet, and he obviously got crushed by Bruno Silva. But obviously Sam Alvey, I still gonna say to this day, he's one of the lower level guys in the UFC. His skill level, he's pretty basic. He's gonna want to keep it on the feet. He has effective takedown defense here, but he's a basic fighter here. This guy's on a is this a 5-fight losing streak? Can you confirm that?
He's winless in 6 straight fights. I think he had a draw. Yeah, he had the Daun Jung draw, and then he had 5 losses surrounding that.
Wow.
So his last win was versus John in 2018.
That's insane. Like, I'll be honest, man. I wanted to go with my boy Sam Alvey. I'm gonna still go with Sam Alvey, but I'm gonna say this loud and clear: do not bet this fight. Do not bet this fight because Sam Alvey, one guy has lost two of his last two fights. The other guy, again, like Harris said, he's like, whatever, he's winless in 6 fights. So either whatever side you go on, you're not going to be safe at all. Like, this is a fight you have to avoid when you have two guys that keep on losing. And how Wellington Turman lost to Andrew Sanchez tells me that Sam Alvey has a real good shot in this fight. As far as the striking goes, Turman left himself wide open, and he looked really bad as far as striking goes with a wrestler. So I'm gonna go with Sam Alvey. I never do this. I never pick Sam Alvey, but I'm gonna tell you bettors, stay away from this fight. Both of these guys in their last 7 fights, 8 fights, they're winless. Like, if you add up, like they're pretty much, they have like 2 wins and like 9 losses in their last 11 fights. Like, you can't trust these guys at all. So, but I'm gonna go with, sorry for the ramble, but I'm gonna go with Sam Alvey. Yeah, I just feel like he needs it more. So Sam Alvey's my pick.
For my pick, although Sam Alvey needs it more, I still have to factor in the age. 35 years old on the side of Sam Alvey, 25 years old on the side of Wellington Turman. And I mean, I still have to factor in who Sam Alvey is at this point in his career. I just can't rely on him to put rounds together. I can rely on him to be tough. I can rely on him to, be a game opponent, give his opponent a tough time. I can rely on his opponent having to be sharp in order to beat him, having to be consistent, can't run out of a cardio tank in order to beat Sam Alvey. But I just cannot bet on Sam Alvey at any point in time. So, almost by default, I'm going to go with Wellington Turman. I don't know how he gets it done, but Turman should win at this point. You would hope for his sake, for his career, that he should win at this point. It is giving decent odds, -130. I really only see Wellington Turman losing if he tires out early or if he tries to explode early, and it doesn't work on Alvey, because of course Alvey has that toughness factor to him. But I just cannot bet on Sam Alvey at any point in time. So Wellington Turman by default, but I am going to echo the message. Do not bet on this fight at all. Even with the decent odds, it's just not worth it. Even as an underdog with Sam Alvey, it's not worth it. So Turman is going to be my pick for the sake of the channel. But I'm absolutely staying away from this one from a betting perspective. Let's move on to our next fight, the final fight of the prelims. We have Alessio Di Chirico taking on Abdul Razak Alhassan. I'll keep this one pretty short as well, just to kind of briefly analyze these two fighters. Of course, Alhassan, we know he lost to Jacob Malkoun. That was back in April. 3-fight losing streak now at this point for Alhassan. Still very much has those explosive hands, not really the best cardio, of course, with the frame that he has. And he is somewhat dimensional. I mean, we see his record there, 10 wins, 4 losses. All 10 of those wins have come via KO, TKO. He's going to be somebody that's just simply looking for that big knockout punch. For Alessio Di Chirico, on the other hand, he beat Joaquin Buckley. That was back in January via head kick. Pretty decent stand-up, loves the overhand right, coming off of a block or a counter. Pretty decent counter puncher in general. Decent movement, decent head movement, decent kicks. He'll shoot for the takedowns. He can land the takedowns. Also shows some decent takedown defense or an ability to get up if he is taken down. Ultimately, I'll keep the pick pretty short. I am siding with Alessio Di Chirico. I feel somewhat the same about this fight as I feel in the Jacoby versus Darren Stewart fight. These guys, they're just unreliable. These Darren Stewart, these Alhassan style of fighters who are going to rely on kind of a one punch to get it done here. I can't really rely on them. I can't pick them. I think Alhassan, even be careful with Alhassan because he's creeping up there in age as well. I think he's 36 now at this point. Let me double check. Yeah, 36 years old at this point. So he is creeping up there in age. 3 losses in a row, like we mentioned. For Di Chirico, I mean, his performance, of course, versus Joaquin Buckley is sort of why I feel decent about him. Because, of course, we know that he wasn't looking too great in his fights before that. But again, I'll keep it short. Outside of the puncher's chance that Alhassan always has, I like the Chirico here. I think he's the more diverse striker. I think more importantly, he's going to have more of a game plan. And like I said, I just cannot trust Alhassan at this point in his career. So the Chirico is my pick, minus 225. I'm not too mad at those odds. Or no, my apologies, wrong odds there. I think he might even be an underdog. I can't even tell what the odds are. There seem to be all over the place on Tapology versus ESPN. But nonetheless, my pick is going to be Alessio Di Chirico.
Yeah, I'll be quick, man, and I'll explain my reason on who I picked. I'm going with Alessio Di Chirico. If you really look, go into Abdul Razak Alhassan's record, and you look at all his wins, right? All his wins, Nico Price, first round knockout. Sobha Hamasi, first round knockout. Sabah Hamasi, first round knockout. Chris Ward, first round knockout. Joe Eichelberger, first round knockout. Ken Jackson, first round knockout. Oh, these are all his wins. I can't make this up. Bryce Shepard, first round knockout. Matt McKeon, first round knockout. Matt Jones, first round knockout. Colby Adams, first round knockout. Look at Chirico's record. And he's fighting good fighters. His losses, Zach Cummins, unanimous decision. Mahmoud, unanimous. Kevin Holland, unanimous. Eric Spicer, he got choked out by a jiu-jitsu guy in the first round. Never knocked out. He lost a unanimous to Bojan Velkovic. So you get where I'm going here, right? Chirico has a chin. He could take, at the beginning of each fight, every fighter has all their energy, so they can throw the hardest punches in the first round. Chirico can take a shot. He's fought Joachim Buckley, power hitter. Miradov, another guy that gets a lot of knockouts. He's fought Oluwalu Bambozi, Julian Marquez. These guys knock people out. But Chirico ate those shots. So what's going to happen in this fight is, even if Chirico loses the first round, which he probably wins the first round after the first half of the round, he's going to win the second and third round. So I'm going to go Alessio Di Chirico, because obviously Alhassan has never won a fight in the second or third round. Chirico's been there. So Chirico's my pick. Am I confident? I feel it's a good pick to take. I just feel Alhassan, he's been on a losing streak 3 in a row. So like Harris said, he's not in a good place right now. So you never know. A lot of these guys that when their back's against the wall, they kind of show out that night. So you got to be careful. But all the information, all the numbers say, the video footage says Alessio wins this fight. And yeah, Alessio should get this done. Better cardio, good chin. And that's a nightmare for Alhassan. So I'm going to go Chirico to get this done.
Definitely a nightmare for Alhassan. So let's take it to Vegas in that case, in terms of the prelim card, in terms of which underdogs we are liking. So which underdog or two do you feel maybe has the best shot at winning?
All right, I think Martinez is a good pick. I think Dustin Jacoby is another good pick, and JJ Aldrich.
Okay, so you're going with some favorites first. So let's put that parlay together there. So in terms of those favorites, Mana Martinez, JJ Aldrich, Dustin Jacoby, those 3 picks would be a plus 149. $100 will get you 249. For our bigger bettors, 250 will return 622. If I'm looking at on the favorite side of things, I am looking at Dustin Jacoby as well. Probably one of my more confident picks on this card in general. And to your point of sort of asking yourself how confident you can feel about this pick, I just can't feel confident in Alhassan at all. So almost by default, again, Alessio Di Chirico is going to be my second pick on my favorite card. So those two would pay pretty decent, plus 121. $100 will return 221. And for our bigger bettors, 250 will return 553. Do you have any underdog picks for this prelim?
Man, really on this underdog, I think a lot of the favorites are like set up to win here. But if I had to take, I'll take Sam Alvey. Um, yeah, I'll take Sam Alvey to get it done. But I will say though, as far as betting goes, I think Jamall Emmers is a fighter people should look at. Do your own research as well. I just feel like the athleticism. I think he has a good shot here. Good odds on that fight as well. So it's definitely a spot. It wasn't an underdog. It wasn't one of my favorite picks, but it's definitely a fight that I'm looking at, and I likely would bet on the side as a one-off.
Yeah, and to that point, definitely a fight that I want to continue to watch more in depth as well. Because at first glance, I do feel that Pat Sabatini as an underdog does have a shot to win. But again, like you said, Jamall Emmers has the skill set to really be good in this division and be good in the UFC. So that's something to be very weary about. But as I'm seeing it for now, Pat Sabatini plus 125, I can potentially see happening. So let's end off our prelim video there. Let's leave it at that. Again, we appreciate all of the algorithmic stuff. Subscribe to
your underdog pick. Your underdog. Is it Sabatini?
Yeah, Sabatini's my underdog.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, Sabatini's my underdog. No worries. So yeah, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, press the thumbs up, hit the notification bell. And again, like I said, let's have very good banter back and forth in the comments. Let us know which picks you are liking, which picks of ours you perhaps want to go against, and let's again have some extended conversation as to why. If you have a specific parlay that you're looking at, drop that in the comments. We'll be more than happy to have some, again, extended conversation about your specific parlay. But in the meantime, we are going to wrap it up at that. This has been, of course, the UFC Vegas 35, aka UFC Fight Night, Barboza versus Chikadze, aka Ultimate Fighter finale prelim video. Of course, in our main card coming up next, we are going to get into those Ultimate Fighter fights, as well as, of course, the other fights on that main card. But in the meantime, like I said, we are going to sign off. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. This has been the prelim predictions for UFC Vegas 35. And in our usual fashion, let's get this money.
Let's do it.